We are an inclusive, non-creedal fellowship that works for a just community and fosters a lifelong search for personal spiritual fulfillment. I am Chris Cleveland, and I'll be your service leader this morning. And you are in for a treat today. As guitarist, singer, songwriter, and storyteller, Ruth King presents today's message. We have a few announcements. Normally, UUCLC takes one Sunday a month off to give the tech team a well-deserved rest. But we couldn't pass up the opportunity to share Ruth's message and our time for questions afterwards. So today's service will be a little different. We will not be verbally sharing joys and concerns, but you can place them in the chat box, or you can save them for the discussion after the service. You can also donate in the chat box. There's a funding link there. And if you are interested in receiving our weekly bulletin or learning more about us, please send us an email at office@lakecountyuu.net. To access chat, you simply move your cursor around until things pop up along the bottom and you see chat. You click on that, and then a chat box will open up and you can read the things that other people have written. And at the bottom, you can write your own message. It automatically would send it to everyone, or if you click everyone, you can choose an individual person to receive a private message from you. Be sure to check out our weekly service bulletin, which lets you know of the many UU activities that are meeting on Zoom. We do have Tai Chi, which meets on Mondays in our parking lot, which isn't through Zoom. Our service is being recorded. Yay. And except for the discussion period after the service. If you want to listen to any of our previous services or social justice lectures, you can go to our YouTube channel, UUCLC Office, or you can access it through your weekly bulletin. There's a link. Are there any other announcements today? Does anybody see any announcements?
Bernie?
Me. I wanted to announce the success of the bake sale in terms of raising money for Lake County Cares and for Open Door. We had a last-minute donation yesterday of frozen baked goods for $100, which brought a total to $500. Way to go.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. Our welcome this morning is adapted from Gretchen Haley. For this hour we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from needing to know the answers and yearning to have it all already figured out. Here in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, and a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith. That we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. Come, let us worship together. Welcome to all of you this morning. There are 36 participants and 2 in some of the boxes, so probably about 40 people here. Yay. If you are a first-time visitor or perhaps returning after a long absence and are comfortable doing so, please wave your hand in front of your camera and somebody from the tech team will call on you so you can unmute and tell us what brought you here today and who you are. Anybody new or returning? Okay.
Christy, Mark, yes. Mark, did you want your hand up?
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a dear friend of Ruth's, and I just learned how to do this Zoom thing. This is my third meeting, and I'm just very blessed to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this.
Well, we're so glad you joined us.
Hi, Ruth.
Ruth is too.
Great to see you, Mark.
Good to see you.
You may, anybody else? Anybody else in Ruth's entourage? Okay. You may remember Ruth King from our January social justice lecture on healing racism. She is from Mount Dora and studied music at Florida State. She makes her living as a musical artist, and her music is published in about a dozen different countries. Ruth's biracial story is one of inspiration and perseverance in overcoming many personal hardships. She recently published her memoir, Zebra, Lost and Found Between Two Races. And UUCLC is honored to hear your words and music this morning, Ruth. Welcome. I'm going to begin our official service by lighting our chalice. Maybe. This light unites us. This light unites us with our neighbors, our friends, and our enemies. Most importantly, this light unites us within ourselves. Our hearts, our souls, our spirits, this light unites us.
And I can begin if you'd like. I can see you on my screen.
Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. And I can begin if you'd like. I can see you on my screen. But I hear that you're muted.
Okay, we need to spotlight Ruth.
That's nice. Good morning. I am Ruth King, or Ruth Ann Bergeron King, which is the name I've used for my book. And it's still in editing, and I promise you it's coming out. but in music circles, folks know me as Ruth King. Now, you might think that I came here to tell you something or to teach you something, but actually I'm here to learn. All I have is my experience. I have my experience, my thoughts, and my discoveries. But I tell you about it, and then you can tell me your discoveries too, because this is a we thing. We're learning together. There's one thing about me, though. I am fascinated by humanity. I am a true believer in the human design. The soul, you know. You read parts of my book when it comes out, and you'll wonder why I believe in people. And sometimes I wonder too. Being both Black and white, it is as if I was born smack dab into the middle of an argument an entire nation was having with itself. And it still is, actually. But I do believe in people. We are good at heart. And I spend a lot of time looking at us individually and as a people and as a nation, mostly in an effort to heal or end racism. And in writing my book, I am as surprised as anyone. I found a cure. So I've been sharing that. See, I found that there's a key to unlock the deadbolt on racial hate that divides our nation. And the key is to stop hating the white racist. I know, how can that work? But I've seen it work. Well, I've just enjoyed a sweet season. Just after the 2021 inauguration of Biden and Harris, I shut off the news. I just turned it off completely. And every now and then I'd turn it back on. I'd be delighted to see, oh, they're working hard. They're doing those things that are important. Turn the news right back off. But in getting ready for today, I thought, well, let me tune in and catch up a little bit, take a pulse of what's going on. And so I turned on the morning network news, and I got a little gist of what's going on. And what I think is we're in grief. We're a nation in grief. Well, of course we are, because of COVID. Aside from the pandemic, in the big picture of America, we're making changes for the better. We're like leveling the playing field and bringing equality. That's something that started, last summer. But we feel confused, we're apprehensive, we're afraid. It was one way for a couple hundred years, and then about a year ago it changed, and it hasn't stopped changing yet. And so where are we going as a people, as a country, as citizens of the world? We're experiencing a huge shift, and it's scary because change takes courage. There's a master of change right outside our windows here in Florida, anyway, moving around in our garden. And you guessed it, it's the butterfly. Wow, teach me, caterpillar. Did you ever imagine that so much change would come just out of putting one foot in front of the next? And with a caterpillar, that's a lot of feet. Butterfly, tell me I can do this. Please, can I change? And if I change my mind, will I still be me? I have a song that was inspired by a true folk life story here in Florida of two girls in grade school, one Black, one white, who were thrown together through desegregation, which needed to happen. But the integration of the races happened by those teachers right in those classrooms. Don't you know it? We have them to thank. So the teacher put these two together, and this is the story I wrote about that. It's called The Courage of the Butterfly. You look like an enemy. You don't look like me. I don't know your name. 2 eyes, 2 legs, 2 feet, 2 ears. But when you talk, I can't hear the same. If I change my mind, will I still be me? If I change my mind about the things I believe, it takes courage to give love a try. It takes the courage of the butterfly. Caterpillar walks in step, each step in harmony with the next. The butterfly has wings to fly, to soar and fly so high, so high. If I change my mind, will I still be me? If I change my mind about the things I believe, it takes courage to give love a try. It takes the courage of the butterfly. Afraid to look beyond what I know. When my head says stop, but my heart says come on. Even when you're crying, I feel sad. And then feel glad because you're smiling. Yeah, we can be friends at last. Within our grasp, our silver lining. If I change my mind, will I still be me? If I change my mind about the things I believe, it takes courage to give love a try. It takes the courage of the butterfly. The courage of the butterfly. Butterfly with all its colors, sisters and brothers, and the storm. A new tradition, brave and true, long overdue. Our love transforms. It worked out. Those two are still friends to this day. Thank you. True story. Somewhat uniquely within me, I hold the answer to that question. If I change my mind, will I still be me? The racial divide that exists in the country is right inside of me. I'm equally as Caucasian as I am African American. I experienced racism firsthand right inside my family of origin early on, both sides. I grew up seeing so much racial hatred that I have made it my life's purpose to take care of my dogs and cats and have a good life, but to end racism if my message is going to help. So I'm bringing the message to whoever will listen. I really am so excited to be with you today. See, I know that 100%, without a doubt, that racism is curable, and I've seen it. I've seen it. My white racist grandparents were my caregivers early on, and they helped me discover that a cure is possible. Growing up, they not only despised me for the color of my skin, they attempted to radicalize me from early on to hate Black people as if I wasn't Negro. Sadly, they told me I wasn't. Any overture toward Black pride would have been greatly welcomed addition to my childhood, but that didn't happen. Here's an excerpt from Zebra, Lost and Found Between Two Races. The book isn't out yet. This is from my first chapter, I Am That Baby. It's an excerpt. My Caucasian grandfather's hatred and disdain for any human being that was not white was evident. He couldn't bring himself to even look at me. And if he ever did sneak a glance at me, it was with hatred, disgust. I knew to never get near him or look at him, initiate conversation with him, or even answer in any way, shape, or form other than to obey should he extend a demand in my direction, which was rare. Ignoring my existence was his mode of operation. To be fair, he hated everyone and everything except his Cadillac, playing the trumpet when he played in the Army band, and his little boy, Greg, who was 2 years older than me. My grandmother, on the other hand, was both very verbal and disconcerted. Years later, in my teens and adult life, the seeds that created my racially inappropriate attitude toward the Black race came out sideways in humor. This passive-aggressive humor was camouflaged to my eyes. It sounded like some type of self-deprecating comedy routine. I made white friends laugh. I could always get someone to laugh along with what I thought of as just being funny. If it wasn't the content of what I was saying, especially when borderline or outright racially inconsiderate, then it was the way I said it. It was humorous on the surface. As long as they were laughing, however, my white friends weren't hurting me with their regular and unintentional racial insensitivities. All the while, I was hurting myself with my callousness. However, once I was sensible enough to look deeper within, what I found were the seeds of racism planted in me toward African Americans, long before I had even begun to walk or talk, way back when I could only listen. I stopped laughing when I suddenly realized that I hadn't ever seen myself as one of them, meaning Black. To me, this was a stunning and depressing realization. Ignoring my ethnicity was hardwired into me. My early age wounds hadn't yet been healed. You see, the Civil War is right here in me. I am zebra, black stripes, white stripes. Well, that's what the mean kids when I was young in upstate New York used to call me. They used to yell at me. I used to feel so ashamed, you know. I thought I was what I shouldn't be. I'm not Black, I'm not white, I'm something other. Yeah, but today I see my biracial ethnicity as a favored vantage point, and especially in viewing the goings on in our country, which I love. Oh, I gotta say, if you are afraid that you are a racist, don't be. You're not. Because a racist would never, ever consider that as, you know, that would never go through the racist's mind, that maybe they're a race. If you are certain 100% that you're not a racist, you probably are. But don't panic, because racism is 100% curable. So all is well. So to speak, all is well. There is a push by a militant faction in this country led by a former president to establish our country as a nation of white supremacy. The majority of white America is not on board with this. They're saying, yes, we're white, but we're not white supremacists. The white racists are in the minority, but they're terrorizing the rest of the nation. A small group, non-racist Americans are bewildered. That's how we feel on many levels, bewildered. Nobody in their right mind wants systemic racism. I said a lot in that one sentence. We have asked for our nation to be healed, but that's what we're getting. And it's changed. That's what we got. And we're startled. We can't recognize this country. Now we're in a place where we don't like where we've been, and we don't know if we like where we are, or we don't know where we're going. There are rabid domestic terrorists barking at our doors and doing more than just barking. Now, tragically, as we saw on January 6th, the white racist is at the foundation of our nation's divide. There are racists of other ethnic origins, of course, but the white racist is the anchor. They are at the core of the problem of racism in our world. But they are and have always been pawns in a simple plan of greed. The racist has been told that all their problems stem from a certain people group. And then they are coerced into hating this people group. They have given away their freedom. They're not free to love. They've been sold a bill of goods. The white racist has a disability, a mental illness. I no longer apologize for saying that. They have been infected by a disease called racism. Nobody is immune, to racism. It's a contagion of the mind. Primarily and especially vulnerable are the children. no child has ever, I sort of kind of cry when I think of this, but no child has ever wanted to grow up to hate people just for the color of their skin. You know, when I grow up, I'd like to be a racist. No, I want to be a scientist, a doctor, a mommy, a daddy. I want to have a puppy. You know, that's what kids are thinking. This sickness has been put upon them, and then they grow up in ways and not in others. Think of it, a portion of our nation no longer believes that our democracy works, all because one man, a known con man, told them lies. So how gullible is this people group? So with racism, it begins with a self-esteem problem. It's compounded by mountains of fear. The white racist is the most vulnerable element of our society. The solution to racism is not up to them. It can't be up to them. You know, oh, if they would only stop whatever, stop thinking, stop doing, they can't. They're incapacitated. They're powerless to help themselves. The solution is up to the non-racist. That's us. That's good news. We carried the cure for this disease like our civil rights heroes, Martin Luther King, John Lewis, American educator Jane Elliott, still doing great works for racial equality, and African-American poet James Baldwin. As James Baldwin suggests, the key to curing the American dilemma of racial hatred and inequality is not found in bitterness. He goes on to pour out the ingredients of self-esteem upon his young nephew, black man to black man, in his writing, A Letter to My Nephew. Please, if you get a chance, try to read this poem in its entirety, because I'm just giving snippets. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm not doing it justice. It's called A Letter to My Nephew by James Baldwin. It was published in 1962. Dear James, I have begun this letter 5 times and torn it up 5 times. I see your face, which is also the face of your father, my brother. This innocent country set you down in a ghetto in which, in fact, it intended that you should perish. You were born where you were born and faced the future that you faced because you were Black and for no other reason. You were born into a society which spelled out with brutal clarity and in as many ways as possible that you were a worthless human being. You were not expected to aspire to excellence. Please try to remember that what they believe, as well as what they do and cause you to endure, does not testify to your inferiority, but to their inhumanity and fear. You must accept them and accept them with love. For these innocent people have no other hope. They are in effect still trapped in a history which they do not understand. And until they understand it, they cannot be released from it. They have had to believe it and believe for many years and for innumerable reasons that Black men are inferior to white men. Many of them indeed know better, but as you will discover, people find it very difficult to act on what they know. The danger in the minds and hearts of most white Americans is the loss of their identity. Try to imagine how you would feel if you woke up one morning to find the sun shivering and all the stars aflame. You would be frightened because it is out of the order of nature. Any upheaval in the universe is terrifying because it so profoundly attacks one's sense of one's own reality. The Black man has functioned in the white man's world as a fixed star, an immovable pillar. And as he moves out of his place, heaven and earth are shaken to their foundations. You don't be afraid. Those innocents who believed that your imprisonment made them safe are losing their grasp on reality. But these men are your brothers, your lost younger brothers. We, with love, shall force our brothers to see themselves as they are, to cease fleeing from reality and begin to change it. You come from a long line of great poets, some of the greatest poets since Homer. One of them said, "The very time I thought I was lost, my dungeon shook and my chains fell off." We cannot be free until they are. James Baldwin, A Letter to My Nephew, 1962. 59 years later, think of it. He said, "You must accept them and accept them with love, for these innocent people have no hope, other hope." James Baldwin is talking about the white racist to his young nephew. He says, "Try to imagine how you would feel. These are your brothers and sisters." 60 years later, we can put sisters in there. These are your brothers and sisters, your lost younger brothers and sisters. We with love, he's coming with compassion and empathy. We cannot be free until they are free. So when I speak about the white racist being as beautiful a child of God as anyone else, what I am saying is this: heal the intoxication of the racist cocktail that they are drunk on, and you have a person as capable of goodness as the next. The racist cocktail is a combination of fear, self-hatred, and gullibility. You put it all together and you got a racist. The white racist is 90% bravado. Take away their mobs, their guns, and now their bombs. And you have a scared person trying to be liked and accepted. I am not above the same emotions that turn a person into a racist. You heard about my beginnings. Who hasn't felt afraid? Who hasn't struggled with self-esteem and self-love? Who hasn't been gullible, believed the wrong people, followed them, enabled them? I have to concede that I'm capable of the very same emotions. I am no better than the racist. I am no better than the racist. I am better than racism. We all are. But the racist, this is my brother or sister. So last month, speaking at your part one of your 3-part social justice series, which I so enjoyed, I received an inspired question, many inspired questions, but this is the one that stopped me in my track and hasn't let me go. It is this: Ruth, can you explain how you love someone when you don't like them? So at the time, it was a question and I gave my impression. I was kind of rambling a little. Not that you could imagine that I might be able to do that, but I started off saying, this is how I love people I don't like. I see our similarities, that we're both human. I find it impossible to hate a human being just because I disagree with a thought that's in their head. And when hurricanes and tragedies come, we all pull together. That's all true. However, after much reflection, I feel the full answer is this: you fall in love with yourself. That's how you love someone you don't like. And that can start with gratitude for who you are, what you've been given. You can only give that which you have. Just like the racists can only give hate. The hate they have for themselves is all they can give to others. We have love. Love is not in the same realm as liking someone. Love is much, much better. If like is a candle flame, love is a quasar. And I went and did my science homework to find that a quasar shines with the brilliance of 600 trillion suns. So I'm a servant of love. I'm not a servant of like. So now the only issue is we need a source of love. But there is plenty. That's good. That's not a problem. Love is not in short supply. And this love has saved me personally. This song was written from the pre-dawn floor of my bedroom in 1991. I was immobilized in the midst of a panic attack, sitting right on the floor. And the whole reason was I was trying to leave my house and go out into my day. That's how the panic hit me. I've suffered a lot of grief and loss, and my healing journey from wounds of racism started early in my life. At this time, I was really into reading this book called the Bible. In fact, I read only the Bible for a decade and a half. Maybe a book by C.S. Lewis, and definitely one by Brother Lawrence, Practicing the Presence of God, but basically just the Bible. And it was inside of that Bible that I saw words that emboldened me. It was about the breadth and length and depth and height of God's love. So I sat there trying to perceive how big this love might actually be. Is it big enough? I hope. And that's when I heard this beautiful melody, which that's what happens. I'm a songwriter. So sometimes I hear a group of words, a phrase, or sometimes I hear the melody and the words same time. But that's when the song was done and it was finished that morning. When it was done, I realized this love, it's mine. It's mine. I got up, I walked outside and went about my business for the day. It's called Higher Than the Heavens. Higher than the heavens, your love, greater than the mountains, your love, broader than the universe is your love, clearer than reality, deeper than humanity, longer than eternity is your love for me. Higher than the heavens, your love, greater than the mountains, your love, broader than the universe is your love, clearer than reality, deeper than humanity, longer than eternity is your love for me. If I search beyond the sky to the furthest galaxy, I could never hope to reach the limits of your love for me. As I sit and ponder this, your spirit finds my soul at rest. At the thought that I possess your love, your When I finished writing my book, Zebra, I discovered I knew the cure for racism. And if you fast forward, and if we fast forward the story of our nation, racism heals eventually. That's the end of the book. And I know why, and we know why. Think about it. It's because the mind can always change, and the heart will always follow. Okay, something happened this past Monday in the Mount Dora Walmart parking lot. Probably something happens every Monday there. I just am not privy to see it. But it reminded me of one way to love the white racist. And that is to see each man and woman as he or she is. Doesn't that sound familiar? Isn't this exactly what we're asking racists to do? To love and to accept each person, including people of color, just for individuals? We're asking them to love us. Hadn't I better start the process by loving them? Agreed. The racist, in the racist scheme of things, they threw the first punch in this 400-plus-year-old sinister attack on Black people. Since they are completely incapable of beginning the healing process, though, can we? Okay, so driving into the parking lot, coming off Eudora Road, going past the lawn and garden section, up the aisle comes quickly a little dog. And I mean little, and a little girl dog, because I could see her mammary glands were distended. She has puppies somewhere. That little one was about 12 inches long, her little legs, and she was in traffic with cars, and several of us saw her, and my car is moving, and I'm negotiating, you know, the traffic and the pedestrians. And just as I slow to where I get to the lawn and garden section, just as I slow down, I see a welcome sight, because I'm looking in my rear view mirror, or my side view. A really tall, broad-shouldered, hefty man wearing a t-shirt with the biggest emblem of the Confederate flag I had ever seen was out of his car. He was stooped over. He had his hand on top of little mama dog's back, and was stroking and comforting and calming and gaining her trust, because she was terrified and in pain. This was so beautiful. His heart of love was palpable. In that moment, that dog was so small and traumatized, and that man was not leaving her side. And he, well, it looked like, to me, he was wearing two entire Confederate flags, one in the front and one in the back as a shirt, t-shirt. There was no questioning his allegiances. He had two. One was hate and one was love. The wearing of a rebel flag t-shirt suggests that one is in agreement with the Confederacy. The pathology of the Confederacy is that it was built on a conscienceless foundation, the cornerstone of which is racism. The Confederacy was doomed to fail for many reasons, but primarily for the reason that it was founded upon human trafficking. Hello? These merchants of men and women and children either started or propagated the lie that Black slaves weren't even really human, more like animals. And by their participation and patronage condoning slavery, the Confederacy was founded upon racial hate and insanity. Human trafficking is a sole contaminant. The Confederacy was contaminated from the start. Racism itself is the enemy, but not the racist. It took this Walmart parking lot rebel flag t-shirt angel to remind me that although the racist is sincerely wrong, and many are sincerely violent and twisted and even murderous, and I'm honoring in my heart the lives of those who were lost and families that have grieved because of this hideous, well, I don't need to say more, I get emotional, way of life of the racist. But most racists are, at the very least, sincere. Sincerely wrong, but sincere. There used to be a racial divide. There used to be a racial divide of Black and white. And we've heard over the years, they want to have a race war. and this sort of thing. I think that day has passed, because now there is still a divide, but it's an improvement. It's a divide between the white racists or white supremacists and the non-racists. That's where the divide is now. And this non-racist group encompasses all people groups. That's a good change. I don't know if you've noticed this, that there's been a change. It has come with pain, unspeakable devastation. And it has come about recently. But the good news is it has begun. This song, I sing it to the folks who are racist, and I also sing it so that we can learn to love them, because I think that's the solution. There's a time to go inside the heart of all that one holds dear, to grow beyond our childish ways and trust beyond our fears, a leading that can only come from deep within the soul. Equality with dignity, respect and human kindness, a new day dawning, bringing out into the light a new way becoming, a beacon shining through the night, is love revealing. Beneath the skin, we're all the same. The answer is simple. A willingness to change is all it takes to heal a world of pain. We become addicted to our mindsets, slaves to what's not true. Let's never forget that a child of God is within me and you. There's a time to go inside the heart of all that one holds dear, to grow above our childhood ways and trust beyond our fear, a leading that can only come from deep within the soul. Equality with dignity, respect and human kindness, a new day dawning, reaching out into the light, a new way becoming, a beacon shining through the night, is love revealing. Beneath the skin, we're all the same. The answer is simple. A willingness to change is all it takes to heal the world. A willingness to change is all it takes to heal the world. A willingness to change is all it takes to heal a world of pain. Time to spread our newborn wings and fly, a new day dawning. Amen. Thank you. The mind can always change, and the heart will always follow. Racism? Love can cure this. Love can cure this. Loving the racist is the cure I have found for racism. To love the racist is the peaceful resistance of our time. This is our time.
With those words, I extinguish our chalice. And now if you can put your Zoom screen into gallery view, and we can hold hands with our neighbors and sing Weave together.